Picture this. It's the summer of 1966. India is just waking up, and as the August issue of Filmfare magazine hits the newsstands, jaws literally drop across the entire country. In today's Explainer, we are unpacking a massive cultural explosion that absolutely rocked 1960s India. We're looking at a singular moment in pop culture history that wasn't just about fashion, but about fiercely testing the boundaries of a deeply conservative society.
So, could a single photograph actually shake a nation? I mean, today, we're totally used to seeing bold fashion on magazine covers and all over our social media feeds, right? But we really have to transport ourselves back to the 1960s. This was a time when Indian society was, well, fiercely conservative. The mainstream was completely unaccustomed to Western styles of this nature, and the public was super easily scandalized. So when a young, prominent actress sat cross-legged with the defiant look on a magazine cover, it didn't just ruffle a few feathers, it caused a downright earthquake. Okay, let's dive into this, because the reaction wasn't just some passing gossip in film circles. Oh no, it escalated to the very highest levels of the Indian government. As Sharmila Tagore herself later recalled, questions were asked in parliament at the time. I mean, just think about the sheer magnitude of that for a second. You literally had elected officials using parliamentary sessions to debate the moral implications of an actress simply posing for a magazine. It was a full-blown national uproar.
Section 1. Behind the controversial cover, intent versus impact.
So how did this catalyst actually come together? The image itself was striking. Sharmila Tagore in a black and white bikini. Now, French designer Louis Réard had unveiled the bikini way back in 1946, and it had slowly filtered into Western wardrobes over the years. But it definitely had not made its way into the Indian mainstream yet. By choosing to wear this two-piece, Sharmila Tagore became the first ever mainstream Bollywood star to don a bikini on a magazine cover, effectively introducing a highly controversial Western fashion directly into the ultra-conservative Indian spotlight.
But you know, here is where the story gets pretty ironic. You'd probably think that doing something this bold would require a ton of persuasion from a daring photographer, right? Actually, it was the exact opposite. When Sharmila showed the two-piece to the photographer, he was the one sweating bullets. He literally asked her, "Are you sure about this?" In fact, he was so anxious during the shoot that in some of the shots he actively asked her to cover her body. The photographer was absolutely terrified of the pushback, while the star herself was completely at ease.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive contrast between the nation's absolute panic and Tagore's innocent, casual confidence. When the magazine dropped and people started reacting with incredible hostility, she was genuinely taken aback by it all. She said, "I was puzzled as to why they didn't like the picture. I thought I looked nice. Maybe there was an exhibitionist in me, as I was young and excited to do something different." Critics called it a deliberate move to grab eyeballs and called her astutely uncanny, which she absolutely hated, by the way. To her, it just felt right.
Section 2. Public outrage versus private support. Finding an anchor.
So, the magazine is out, and Sharmila is facing immense scrutiny. To make matters even more stressful, she was dating the legendary cricketer Mansoor Ali Khan Pataudy, better known as Tiger Pataudy, and he happened to be out of town. On the left here, you see the storm she was facing. Huge criticism, moral outrage, all those intense parliamentary debates. But over on the right, you see her anchor. When a deeply stressed Sharmila reached out to tell him about the massive controversy exploding back home, his response was simply, "I am sure you look very nice." It's such an incredible visual contrast, the deafening roar of a scandalized society completely neutralized by the quietly grounding, modern, and gentlemanly support of the man she loved.
As Sharmila reflects on that exact moment, she says, "That was enough support and I wasn't unsettled then." It's truly fascinating how one simple, reassuring sentence from her partner completely shielded her from a national meltdown. It didn't matter what the critics or the politicians were saying. Having that private foundation of trust meant she just didn't have to weather the storm alone.
Section 3. A lasting cultural legacy, the unintentional trailblazer. Let's move to and see how this builds
Into the broader footprint of her incredible career. This timeline proves she was far, far from a flash in the pan who relied on a single scandalous magazine cover. Look at this. She made her debut at just 14 years old in Satyajit Ray's acclaimed Bengali epic Apur Sansar back in 1959. Then comes our 1966 cover. Just 2 years later, in 1968, she marries Tiger Pataudy. And by 1975, she's winning the National Film Award for Best Actress for her complex dual roles in the film Mausam. She was a sustained, absolute acting powerhouse who defied every single conservative rule thrown her way.
Discuss how this brilliant slide illustrates her shattering the glass ceiling for women in Indian cinema. Back then, there was this unwritten rule that audiences just wouldn't accept married heroines. Well, she got married at her absolute peak and proved them all wrong. She became a mother of three, actors Saif, Soha, and Saba, and continued dominating the box office. She took on deeply complex, sensitive roles in classics like Amar Prem and Anupama. And in a beautiful twist of irony for someone who once scandalized the nation, she later served as the chairperson of the Central Board of Film Certification from 2004 to 2011. Talk about coming full circle.
So, the crucial point is summarized perfectly by Tagore herself. My life choices, looking back, have been unconventional, like the bikini shot for Filmfare that people don't ever let me forget. Even decades later, this single photograph and the bold trajectory of her life remain firmly etched in cultural memory. She didn't set out to be a radical rebel. She just made choices that felt right to her, you know? And in doing so, she dragged a reluctant society a few steps forward.
Which brings us to our final thought. Would a simple magazine cover spark a parliamentary debate today? It's pretty easy to look back at 1966 and marvel at how conservative society was. But it's really worth asking ourselves, have we actually progressed into a society that fully respects women's autonomy? Or have we just traded parliamentary debates for internet outrage? Have we just found new, digital ways to police women's choices? It's a provocative question for sure, and one that the legacy of Sharmila Tagore's groundbreaking 1966 cover forces us to consider. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this leaves you with something to reflect on.